Okay, so again, friends, thank you very much for joining. I thought I won't be able to make a full session, but it seems like it will be fine. So let me just start with the presentation. As always, I want to start with showing some of the faces of the people that were killed or kidnapped, and we want to say a prayer for them. We'll read Psalms. After that, a few updates, and I have a few things to say. One is about Iran and their ideology. It won't be like the full thing, but I want to explain a little bit where is that coming from, where this animosity is coming from, just a few points. And then I want to talk about the book of Genesis, and I want to show you with Google Earth, I want to show you a few things regarding Sodom. Okay, so today it's the birthday of one of the children that were kidnapped. It's a part of this effort to bring them back, especially the children and even babies, toddlers that are taken, were kidnapped into Gaza. Let me just fix something here. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. And one of them is Ohad Mundi Zichri, which is from Kfar Saba, which is my hometown. It's not too far from Tel Aviv. So again, Ohad was kidnapped with his family, and in the city they had these balloons. And this is like the main street of my hometown. So that's what you see over here. Sharona is the photographer. Sharona Paul, you know her. She's from Kfar Saba.
Do you know Sharona Itamar personally?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Because
No, we were colleagues for many years. I know her in person. Yeah.
She was our guide for the north
Yes.
for this trip.
Yeah. I wanted it's a story that was circulating in the last few days, and I thought it's really very much telling the characteristic of the people that were killed. Shlomo Ron, an older person, pretty sick, no weapons, but a tender soul, loved reading, loved listening to music, loved his wife, loved his daughters and his granddaughters and grandson. And he tried to think, how can I save my family? And he kept them in the shelter, and he went on his own to the living room, waiting for the terrorists to enter in. So he wanted to create the impression that he's all alone, there's no one else here, and it worked. The terrorists killed this beautiful soul, and then they left the house. So all his family survived because of this hero. So we have all kinds of heroes in this war, and that's all he wanted. He just wanted to keep the life of his beloved ones, and he did it. So they all survived. So that's Shlomo Ron. In Kibbutz Nir Oz, just near Gaza, this is something that came out today. 1 of 4, 25% of the kibbutz was kidnapped. It's just unreal. So take a look at all these people, from children and toddlers to the elderly. They're all in Gaza right now. Sagi Golan is a person that he's a captain in the Israeli army. He was killed in battle. That's the one on the left. And I know people that know, like, we're actually friends of him. So it's my second circle, let's say. He was gay, and he was about to get married with his beloved one on the right. And clearly everything changed. And now today, just a few hours ago, the Minister of Defense actually said that the army will recognize even gay couples as people that were harmed by the war, and they will get their full rights, just like straight couples. So this is news from just today. This is Noam Avramovich, one of the girls that were, she was a soldier, one of the soldiers that were killed in the attack on, there were attacks on, I think, 11 different posts of the army, and bases, and she was one of them that was killed. Her mother had a very difficult eulogy and post that she wrote with a lot of criticism on the government, a lot of praising to the people of Israel and what they do, their spirit of volunteering and all that, and a lot of she basically said that everything is rotten, like all the institutions, nothing is working. But thank God we do have the people in Israel that are volunteering and helping and have a big heart. And she was also talking about the young soldiers that were actually reporting that there's a lot of strange things happening on the borders. Something is wrong, something is strange. We don't take it seriously. But people were too arrogant, I guess, and they just okay, we don't have the full picture, and it's probably okay, and that's what led to the catastrophe. So many of these young soldiers, these ladies that are watching the border, said something is wrong, something is strange. They're learning us, they follow us, they see what we do, we see how we move in this area. We see the workers, the Gazan workers that actually worked in the kibbutzes at that time, and they had their own warnings, but it didn't resonate with the decision makers and the commanders. So that's one of the soldiers. In Tel Aviv University, which is where I studied, I have a BA in Middle East history, and my wife also studied there. We met before we studied in Tel Aviv University, but it happened that we both studied there. So in one of the auditoriums over there, they did this for the casualties. They basically printed the pictures and the names of the people that were killed in the attack or massacred in this attack. And the entire auditorium was full, and I'm not sure even if it's enough. Again, we're talking about more than 1,400 casualties, more than 200, I think now it's 220 people that were kidnapped. So this is, again, the people that we are praying for. So I want to read Psalm 13. You can read it in the English. למנצח מזמור לדוד, עד אנה אדוני תשכחני נצח, עד אנה תסתיר את פניך ממני, עד אנה אשית עצות בנפשי, יגון בלבבי, יומם, עד אנה ירום אויבי עלי. הביטה ענני אדוני אלוהי, האירה עיני פן אישן המוות, פן יאמר אויבי יכולתיו, צרה יגילו כאמות, ואני בחסדך בטחתי, יגל ליבי בשועתך, Ashir Adonai ki gamal alai. So we're praying for those who are kidnapped to be safe and they won't be harmed, and God will send His angels to protect them. We're praying for especially the babies and the children and toddlers that are in Gaza right now. We're praying for the elevation of the spirit of those who were killed, and God will comfort their families. We're praying for those who are injured, that they will have speedy recovery. We're praying for soldiers, and the Misha Berach, I mentioned that many times before. We're praying for them to prevail. Okay, so before we move on, if there are any questions, then you're most welcome. And then we'll move on with some of the updates. Okay, so feel free again to open the microphone. You can feel free to write on the chat. I assume that some people have to go earlier than others, and it's perfectly fine. Just feel free to ask anything you want right now, or express your thoughts, express your prayers. Just feel free. Again, I can open. It's open for you. How many are being recovered in the hospitals? I think right now it's about 300 people. But there were more than 5,000 that were injured in different levels. From what again, it doesn't mean that those who are injured don't have issues. They're just not physically in the hospital. So again, I'm not an expert on that, but that's the numbers, okay? 300 people are still in the hospital. How are things from the West Bank? at the West Bank. From what I followed, it seems like still kind of under control. There's always action there. So if you see headlines from Jenin or from Nablus or whatever, it's not surprising. Just the Israeli army is always there. Every day there's something going on. Arrests of terrorists, arrests of whatever. So I didn't notice that it's much different. Okay. Again, feel free. This Q&A part is just not for questions. You can just express your thoughts, express your whatever you want to do. I hope, Faz is asking, I hope everyone is safe and healthy. We are praying for everyone. Please keep us in your prayers for sure. Thank you very much. Faz is in Turkey right now, as far as I remember. Okay, so thank you very much.
Itamar, how many Hamas terrorists are in Israeli jails, approximately?
I think the number of prisoners, Palestinian prisoners in general, usually it's in the neighborhood of 8,000. I didn't check recently, but it should be around that neighborhood, 8,000. But I didn't check recently. As far as the Hamas terrorists, I want to say probably 1,000 or 2,000. That should be a good guess, something like that. But again, I didn't check recently. I didn't see any articles about that recently. But I believe it's these are approximately the numbers.
Interesting.
Okay. Again, I didn't check. Okay. So let's go through the updates. And of course, if you want to ask other things, then just after the updates, feel free again to express yourself. There are always initiatives of how to ease things for people, whether it's just anyone or more specifically the spouses of soldiers that are reservists right now. There's like all kinds of initiatives. So this particular one is an initiative to just invite people to sit somewhere. Okay, ביחד אצל מישהו means sit somewhere at some person, like just to be with other people. And then it says, לא טוב היות האדם לבדו. It's not good for a man to be on his own. A very famous quote from the book of Genesis, that Adam should not be on his own or alone. So again, in these stressful times, basically they're inviting people to other people's house to meet, to socialize, to be away from the screens, to kind of process the national trauma that we're going through. And then they are inviting people to host in their home. So the emphasis is on the togetherness, let's call it, and that's one of these initiatives to help people cope mentally. I think I mentioned it before. My friend Tamar is doing mindfulness exercises over Zoom. These are the type of things that are people are just volunteering to do in order to help their community, help people around them, and help them mentally to go through this. And that's just a blessing. There is a very famous Facebook page, very popular Facebook page in Israel, called the children are the best. The children are the best screenwriters. That's how it's called, the Facebook page. It's in Hebrew, so if you look it up in English, I don't think you'll find it. But anyway, there's many of those. This is just were translated to English too. So Orion, 5.5 years old. Mommy, how is it that there's room in the heavens for so many people? A thought of a 5.5 years old. Ido is telling his sister. Ido, 6 years old, hands his younger sister a doll and explains to her, take the doll with you to kindergarten so that if people come and shoot you, the doll will watch over you. Just take a look at how children are processing the situation. So in as much as we're trying to we're trying to filter the world for them, there is an age that they feel it. So my toddler is just 1 year, 7 months old, but I also feel like he feels the difference with us. He has his own ways to express it, but we are trying to cope with the situation and not to pass any kind of tension on him. But with children that are have better perception, definitely 4 years old, 6 years old, 8 years old, it's harder to do that. They hear things from their friends, from television, from on their phone at some point. For teenagers, forget it. And there are experts, almost like you could say public health experts, including in the field of psychology and psychiatrists, that actually explain online and explain on television what you should and shouldn't do with the children, how you prevent, how you mediate the situation for children and teenagers. So there's a lot of emphasis on mental health in the community and in the television. Again, I don't have television, but the idea is that there are people that are very much concerned about that and trying to keep the mental health of not just themselves, but also their children. So I just wanted to share this one with you. I must say today, I was exposed to that for years, okay, but the level of the pro-Palestinian protests is just boiling and boiling, and the reports that I hear, the articles I see, it's just again, not too much. I don't suppose too much, but the little I get is just horrendous. And I assume you are familiar with that too. So there was a woman, she was a president of a certain synagogue in Detroit that was murdered. What are the circumstances? We don't know, but we'll wait for that. And people feel very stressed, and someone came up with this Jewish lives matter, and let's see what happens with that. Again, it's a very disturbing front. Not surprising. It's not new, but it's something that shows the vulnerability of Jews in the diaspora in a way. So there's just another something that really troubles my mind lately. There was it's a little bit of a joke in India. There's a state called Kerala, which is populated with Muslims too. There was some kind of a protest for the Palestinians, we Indians with Gaza, and they had the Italian flags, which the colors are okay. Some of the colors are in the Palestinian flag, but I guess they didn't have the Palestinian flag. They had the Italian flag. So anyway, that was again another thing. And one of the reasons I brought it up is that the conflict in Gaza right now, the war in Gaza that is going on, unlike other conflicts, echoes in many communities in many places around the world, because of it's not just a clash between Israel and Hamas. It's a clash of civilizations. It's a clash of different values, and that's why it resonates and vibrates in many other places more aggressively than other conflicts around the world. Again, I'm trying to show you some humor that is going on today. The Yemenite front. So I mentioned it last week, I believe, when there is a Shiite militias supported by Iran. It's called the Houthis. I assume you heard of them. And they are part of these arms of the octopus of Iran, basically. And they launched missiles towards Israel a few days ago. As far as I understood, it was intercepted by the American Navy. But for Israelis to look at Yemen as a threat, it's like people are just laughing about it. And again, because my father is Yemenite, there's really a lot of jokes around that. So what are does their missiles look like? The missiles from Yemen, they look like a very famous pastry called jahnun. Jahnun is what you see over here. So they're shooting jahnuns at us, and of course the Israelis make a lot of fun of that. And what you see over here are Yemenite Israeli soldiers that have this traditional dance. It's a beautiful dance, but the way they do it is with the armor, and that's how they're going to check one house in Gaza. The houses in Gaza, they're going to enter with that dance into one house and then another house. So there's a lot of humor around that too. Again, soldiers are in reserve, and they have some spare time. They are training, but also they have some spare time, and they just keep the morale high. So that's what I want to share here. There's a lot of criticism going on in Israel. The reason I'm bringing it up, it's because I see that criticism coming from people that I didn't expect them to see that to say that, and it just shows you that there's a lot of anger on the current government. So they're asking the Netanyahus to open their villa in Caesarea, for example, for the people that were evacuated from the north and the south, and they're asking the bodyguards of their older son that is in Miami, as far as I understood, to bring the bodyguards back to Israel because we need these fighters. So this is the type of criticism that you see, and that's it for the updates. If you guys want to ask anything, I see a couple of things on the chat. Let's take a look. I guess schools and kindergartens are still mostly closed. No, so there are all kinds of instructions for public schools and kindergartens how to operate. And the main factor is if you do have a shelter or not, and if you can get to it in the appropriate time, meaning in most of the country, it's about a minute and a half. So you have 90 seconds to get the children into a safe shelter. And if you cannot do that, then you need to change the way the school works. So in the case of my child, the kindergarten is operative. There's some slight changes in the hours, but all in all, he's back to his kindergarten, and this is my case. But my friends and my neighbors, they send their children to school just half of the week. Okay, so let's say Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, or half day here, half day there. There's some kind of a new way to operate the school, again, in order to make sure that the children have enough time to get to the shelter, enough space in the shelter, and make sure that they can get to the shelter on time. So that's what's going on with schools and kindergartens. So in my specific case, it's back to normal almost, but in many others, it's just half the time the children are at home and study on Zoom or study on online, and half the time they're in school, something around that. My past life that I spent as Muslim, unknowingly, how will affect my life as I live. Sorry, Fayaz, I'm not sure what you're writing. Fayaz discovered his Jewishness later in his life. He's coming from a Jewish family. It's a very interesting story, but Fayaz, I will just leave it here. It's confusing a bit. I spoke to someone who said I will not be accepted in Jewish life and God will punish me, both as if I am Jew or Muslim, because I didn't know I was a Jew. But since I know I am trying, please guide me through. Thanks. Yeah, so we're in touch. I'm in touch with Fayaz for a while. And Fayaz, thank you for sharing. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
I have something to say,
Right,
Edmar.
go ahead.
So I live in Baltimore, Maryland, and I just found out today that a nearby restaurant, not one that I have ever been to before, but I know that they have a Palestine flag on the outside, and Jewish people went and then they left. I just wanted to know if anybody else is experiencing anything in their state, and how we even get past all this open anti-Semitism outside of Israel. Just where we all live outside, there's so much hate that's much more vocal now. Does anybody else see things in their states?
Well, we've seen it in Chicago. We've seen it in Detroit. We have friends in Detroit. Of course, Itamar mentioned the young Jewish woman who was murdered
Yes.
in Detroit. Yeah, it's, you know, what is the collateral damage to the whole world is this, the true heart attitude is coming out of, you know, in just about every country. But I think the overwhelming truth and the miracles that I expect through this war, just like is, I think this war will dwarf this 1967 war in the miracles that it will produce, and is already producing. But and for me, you know, I expect that Israel will declare sovereignty over Gaza, Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think that's going to be the ultimate result. And the world is going to learn to live with that. But we haven't seen the other side yet. And when we see it, when we see the incredible support that Israel is going to get after this evil is totally exposed around the world, it's going to be absolutely incredibly amazing. So that's what I expect from prophecy that I read in the scriptures. But I all I say to my friends is expect a lot of miracles. Over.
Yeah, no, I agree with Paul in the sense that this clash is will affect the mindset. Not it's affecting the mindset and identity of many people, because in the world perception of many people. So just recently, I just saw people that I know that are, you know, they lean left, and it's okay, and this shattered, you know, their conception and their understanding of the conflict completely. Not just the barbarity of Hamas, which again, it's not shocking, it's not surprising at all. I mean, when I saw ISIS in Syria and what they did to their fellow Muslims, I had no doubt that it's going to end in Israel. I hoped it wouldn't, but I had no doubt that we're going to see beheaded people in Israel. It's just this level of violence will trickle into Israel. I didn't know how long it's going to take, and I hope it will never happen. But our neighbors proved themselves to be savages. Just the most inhumane acts that were done. I'm not sure even ISIS did it. They're almost like Boy Scouts compared to them. What they did is just so horrible. And I advise you not to watch the news, and not to watch the horrors, and maybe not to hear the testimonies. Just not to scar your soul with this filth. But even if you just hear 1% of that, you understand that people could be subhumans. And I mentioned it yesterday that like I compared the Hamas terrorists and the Palestinian identity as a genocidal identity in its core, and compared it to the Nazis. And I try to make some points that shows you the difference even between this national identity and the Nazis. So if you want to go back to this recording, then I think you'll find it interesting. But this level of violence and the fact that people are not standing for the Jewish people in the face of this violence, I think this is what is going to change a lot of hearts, a lot of minds throughout the world. So I totally agree with Paul. It just cannot not change. It just has to be. If you're in the same thoughts after what happened, you need to switch brain. You need a completely different medical treatment. So this is we're on the same page, Paul. Okay, go ahead. If you have thoughts, if you want to express anything, just feel free. And then I want to say a word about Iran and move to the Bible study.
I've seen some not necessarily anti-Semitism in Iowa, but I've seen anti-IDF or anti-Israeli sentiment. There's people here in Iowa that kind of blame this situation on 1948 without having a knowledge of the history of these two peoples going back thousands of years. It's just short-sighted, not anti-Semitism, at least in Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else, my friends? Okay, very good. Again, I want what I'm going to do now is I just want to point out a few things. I studied the BA in Middle East history. I wrote a paper about the Iranian ideology. That was a long time ago, but just wanted to make these few points about this hatred of Iran to Israel. So I'll just say that an important moment is the late 70s when two things happened, 77 to 79. Two things happened after in the aftermath of the Six-Day War and the Yom Kippur War. Egypt abandoned the idea of annihilating Israel. It has a lot to do with their inner problems, but they just abandoned that. Egypt was the leader of the Arab world against Israel. These are the days of King Farouk and later Jamal Abdel Nasser. And that was the end, I would say, of the collective Sunni resistance, Sunni Muslim resistance to Israel. Oh yeah, for sure. There are terror groups that continued that are Sunni, including Hamas itself. Okay, it's not like the animosity of the Muslim Sunni world to the Jewish state was eliminated, but as a collective identity, the Sunni Muslim world was not really challenging Israel anymore, and the primacy, I would say, moved to Iran. So 2 years later, we have the revolution in Iran. The Shah was overthrown, and the Shah was a friend of Israel, as you know. In the 60s, 70s, there were very close connections between Israel and Iran, working for the Shah in many different fields. And then once Khomeini basically came back to Iran and completed the Islamic Revolution, you could say that the spearhead of the Muslim world, the attack on Israel came not from the Sunni world anymore, but mainly from the Shiite world. So that's the spirit is Iran and its arms in this region, whether it's again Hezbollah, the Iraqi Shiite militias, the Syrian Shiite militias, and Hamas and the Islamic Jihad and their people in Gaza. Because this is pretty much what's happening. So I'm just going to throw a few things, and then we're going to tie it together. So as you know, Israel is known as the small Satan or the small devil, and America is known as the big devil or the big Satan. Israel is called basically a cancerous tumor, basically in the heart of the Middle East. They are calling for the annihilation of Israel. There are two very famous slogans. Israel boyad machshavad, Israel must be wiped from the face of the earth, basically. Or Mar bar Israel, meaning Israel must die, or death to Israel, basically. These are the type of things that they chant on the streets of Iran, the cities of Iran, and it's a part of a policy of the government in Iran, the Ayatollah's government led by Khamenei, to create rallies and demonstrations against Israel. It's a part of their explicit policy to do that in order to, and this is purely anti-Semitic and not anti-Zionist. It's anti-Semitic demonstrations. They constantly conflate Jewish and Zionists. So although they're very proud of having it's definitely the largest Jewish population in any Muslim country in the world is actually in Iran. About, let's say, 10,000 Jews live in Iran. They are very proud of that. But it's also an example of how Jews should live. They should live as scattered communities, second-class citizens under Islam. That's basically the dhimmi status. We talked about it in the past. And so that's one thing, but they constantly conflate Jewish and Zionist. Like I saw it in many characters and many articles they wrote in their speeches. It's obvious. Just as an example, they talk about Muhammad annihilating the Jewish tribes of Yathrib. Yathrib is Medina today, Medina in Saudi Arabia. It was an oasis that was controlled by a few Jewish tribes, and in one of these rallies, they basically, the people that were the public speakers there, were talking about the annihilation of the Jewish tribes from Medina, from that oasis, by Prophet Muhammad, as the destruction of an important Zionist base. Okay, so Zionist, like there are like no Zionist back then in the 7th century. But anyway, that's how they conflate these two terms. Okay, so that's another thing. Let me I just want to put out there all kinds of anecdotes, and then we'll start to tie it together. Unlike many other policies of Iran, that sometimes they have to compromise the zeal of the revolution in order to, I don't know, for economic reasons, for negotiations with this, for negotiations of that. I would say that in the front of Israel, okay, when it comes to Israel, they don't want to compromise, and usually they don't have to compromise too, because their national interests are fitting their radical ideology against Israel. So in other fields, okay, what do we do with America? What do we do with this, with that? Fine, they can compromise on the zeal of the revolution because they financial issues, economy issues, social issues, but when it comes to Israel, they don't have to compromise. Okay, so I would say I gave you all these anecdotes, but now I just want to I would focus on two elements of this hatred. So one aspect is the traditional Islamic animosity to the Jewish people. Again, Jews are supposed to live in a dhimmi status, in the second-class citizen status, and if they are out of that, meaning if Israel is established as a sovereign Jewish state, this is an accident in history. So this is one reason why there's a lot of traditional Islamic animosity toward Shiite Islamic. It's even more radical towards Israel. The other aspect of it is has a lot to do with the Cold War and this whole concept of in many third world countries that develop this sense of nationalism to also increase the anti-imperial sentiment in it. Okay, so with Israel it fits perfectly because they forged their national identity as an identity, the Iranian identity after the revolution. They forge it around the concept of we are fighting for the oppressed. Okay, for the oppressed, which they are the Palestinians. Okay, we are fighting in order to save them from what? From the imperialist effort of the West to put Israel in the heart of the Islamic world. So let me repeat that. As far as they concern, Israel is the arm of the West in the heart of the Middle East, in the Muslim lands, basically. And sometimes it's a bit confusing. Again, I didn't do that recently, but when I read it back then, sometimes it seems like Israel and the Jews are leading the West, okay? And sometimes it looks like the West planted Israel, and Israel is actually the tool of the West. See, so it's hard to say because it just use both languages. Both of these two expressions exist. So Israel is the spearhead of the West, or Israel is the actual person that will hold the spear and attack the Muslim world. So it's hard to say. But these two expressions exist. So both on the Islamic level and the anti-imperialist sentiment, okay, Iran is very, very strongly against Israel. They're against the idea of Jewish sovereignty, by the way, in every part of the world. So it doesn't matter if Israel was established in, like Uganda or in Latin America. For them, Jews is a religion. It's not a national identity, and therefore they must not have a state. They should live as dhimmis, as I said, as second-class citizens under Islam. So Khomeini was definitely the word anti-Semite is just not enough, but he really hated Jews with all his soul, I would say. And he had books talking about the proper government that should be implemented in Iran, basically after the revolution. He has a very famous book called Vilayet Faqih, which means the control, not the control, but the state, I would say, of the scholar, the Muslim scholar. That's one famous book. There's another book called Hukumati Islami, which is the government, the Islamic government. How should the Islamic government should be conducted? And he's writing a lot of anti-Jewish stuff over there, anti-Israel stuff over there. In his will, he's also expressed his hatred to the Jews. So he's really, from beginning to end, that's a massive part of his identity and how he wanted to see Iran as the leader of the Muslim world and the leader against the Western attack on the Muslim world, which is Israel. I'll stop here. I think this should, yeah, that's pretty much what I want to say, the important things that I want to say. I wrote myself a few remarks, and that's it. So if you guys have any questions about that, again, Iran is leading this whole attack on Israel. It's not just Hamas and Hezbollah, it's these militias in Iraq, in Syria, in Yemen. It's whole concept of inciting the Muslim population, which is Sunni, but it doesn't matter for them. The Muslim population in the diaspora, in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, in Israel proper. That's a whole part of what they're trying to do. So Israel has many fronts that the Iranian octopus sent his arms. Okay, I see some action on the chat, so let me just check it out.
There's a good article from last year that I published here on the high price that the Iranians are paying for their anti-Israel policy. And Iran's got other internal problems. The women I believe the women of Iran are going to bring down that government because of their discrimination against women. But there's a very big movement within Israel, within Iran, that says enough is enough about the Israel bashing that goes on continuously. So that's another internal problem that they're dealing with. But I really think one of the things that's going to come out of this is the U.S. most likely will get involved and go in and bomb the nuclear capabilities of Iran, which is going to be another problem for them. Over.
I'll say that Iran has a lot of domestic problems, a lot of domestic issues, but these are like two parallel states. There's the state where the people live, and there is the Revolutionary Guard and its operation, which is this is where the money is basically. The focus is on having a strong army that will make Iran the regional power they want to be, and to destroy Israel and to weaken it in every possible way. Supreme Leader Khamenei is the Holocaust denier who has publicly called the tragedy afsaneh, meaning myth. Yeah. He's also opposed to the existence of the State of Israel and has publicly called for its annihilation. Of course, Iranians including. So, yeah, okay. Okay? So Chris is asking, what is Russia's role? It's part of an axis against the West in general, against America. The two important players is Russia and China. These are the two superpowers, but other countries like North Korea and Iran and all their client states and militias. This is the axis we're talking about. I mentioned North Korea. I don't know if you're aware of that, but North Korea supplied Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria, with a nuclear facility. And it was not what we call a hot facility, meaning it was not operative to the point that there's an actual core and all that, and it was destroyed by Israel in 2007 or 8, and I had a little role in that too, so just sharing this one with you. So North Korea is also supplying the Hamas with weapon, Hezbollah. North Korea is really involved in what's happening here, so it's also a part of that axis. So if you're asking about Russia's role, from what I've seen, it mainly has to do with propaganda, not so much with supplying arms, because they actually buy ammunition and arms and drones from the Iranians. But if the Iranians need Russia's help in, I don't know, the Security Council, let's say the UN or whatever, then they will probably get their help. So that's where it stands. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Let's continue. I wanted to take you to. We're starting our Bible study now. I wanted to start with this map. The part that I'm going to read is from Genesis 18. So what you see here is the map of Israel, the different rivers. Okay, this is the Jordan River from the Sea of Galilee up north to the Dead Sea, just over here. There are a few rivers in Transjordan as well, which is not important for us right now. And the yellow road that you see here, this is how the patriarchs actually came from Haran up in Turkey to the land of Israel. We talked about it in a few days ago. They entered to Judea and Samaria. Okay, a lot of the biblical stories in the book of Genesis are happening here in Judea and Samaria, and in the Negev desert. I mentioned the land of Gal when we talked about Isaac. Okay, but now I want to focus on Hebron. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, this is the city of Hebron. It's a Palestinian city mainly, but it does have, according to the agreements of the 1990s, there is a part that is the Jews live over there near the tomb of the patriarch. About 1,000 Jews live in Hebron itself, and about, I want to say, 3% of the city is held by Israel directly. Okay, so it's mainly Palestinian city. You see, all this is Palestinians held by the Palestinian Authority. Of course, the Israeli army comes and goes as they please, but citizens don't live there. And closer to the tomb of the patriarchs, okay, which is over here. This is where the tomb of the patriarchs is. Okay, we have the hill of Hebron. This is the hill of Hebron, the historical hill of Hebron. So Abraham lived here. Okay? Abraham lived over here and was buried just a bit outside, just over here, the tomb of the patriarchs. Okay, let's take a look at Sodom. Great. So where exactly is Sodom? There are all kinds of options of where it is: north of the Dead Sea, south of the Dead Sea, or east of the Dead Sea. I would go with the eastern side. Okay, that's the area of where Sodom was probably this area over here. Wadi Mujib is a very big, it's an actual river in Transjordan, and that's the theory that this is the area. This area is where Sodom used to be. Anyway, the eastern side of the Dead Sea. Okay, it's not like there is archaeology to see right now. Okay, so we are going to talk about that. I want to show you Mount Sodom. There's a place called Mount Sodom in the western side, actually, of the Dead Sea. Okay, it's just over here in the southern part. All these pools that you see over here is part of this industry of the Dead Sea. We basically extract all kinds of minerals from the Dead Sea, magnesium, potash, bromide, stuff like that. And Mount Sodom itself, I think I have, yeah, let's take a look. It's a mountain that is all made of salt. Okay, so there's some like grains of dust and it looks like sand, but I can tell you, if you just dig a little, like 1 centimeter, less than 1 centimeter, it's all salt. All of this mountain is just one big chunk of salt. Okay, and another interesting fact about the Dead Sea is that it's 400 meters deep, not here, but in its deepest part, it's 400 meters deep, meaning 1,300 feet deep. And underneath the Dead Sea, there's a few kilometers, I think it's around the 6 miles, so about 10 kilometers of salt. There's sediments of salt that were piled over there for a few millions of years. Okay, that's the Dead Sea. And for whatever reason, it's a geological thing that happened. Some of these salt was pushed out and created Mount Sodom. So if you're looking for a place called Sodom in Israel, it's not the actual city of Sodom, it's just a mountain called Sodom. That's it. And yes, okay. Let's jump now to the other side of the Dead Sea. So the setting is like, that's how it looks like. The area of where Lot was hiding and his daughter slept with him. So this is in the eastern. This is happening in the eastern side of the Dead Sea. So I wanted you to see the terrain. Okay, all these caves and all that sandstone, beautiful sandstone. That's how it looked like. Okay, so I want to share my screen with Genesis 18. So there's a famous moment that Abraham is pleading to save Sodom. When the men got up to leave, the men are actually the angels that are visiting him. They looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just." Tzedakah or mishpat, okay? Just mishpat and tzedakah. It was translated to right, okay? It's I would describe it as grace, with grace and justice, okay? That again, I have my art scroll here with me. It's the Jewish translation of the Bible. This is a Bible Gateway, what you see here. So I just wonder if every now and then I see that there are translations that doesn't work very well with the Hebrew. So let me just check it. right and just. It's verse 19. In verse 19, yeah, for I have loved him because he commands his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of Hashem, the way of God, doing charity, okay, charity or grace, okay, but charity and justice, okay. So this is really important. Charity or grace, tzedakah, it's grace. It's acting out of mercy, okay. But he also wants Abram to be able to do justice, and justice is tough. There is some toughness when you do justice. It's not easy. It's not easy, definitely for a person like Abram that is full of grace. But God trusts Abraham and his descendants to lead the nations with grace and with justice. When you need to be graceful to someone, you'll be graceful, and when you need to make justice, you'll have to make justice. Even if it's cruel, even if it's ugly, you'll still do that. So this is what is written here. So that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Then the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great and their sin is so grievous that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. Then the men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abram remained standing before the Lord. Then Abram approached him and said, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? Okay, will not the judge of all the earth do right? So again, Abraham is very much worried with the reputation of God. He's saying, if you kill the righteous with the wicked, then who's going to believe in you? What you do is wrong for your, let's say, reputation. The Lord said, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Then Abraham spoke again. Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, for I am nothing but dust and ashes. What if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5 people? If I find 45 there, he said, I will not destroy it. And then it goes on and on. What is 40? What is 30? What is 10? Okay, all the way to 10. And then he answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home. Okay, so we have this negotiation going on almost. Abraham is pleading for Sodom. He says, maybe there are a few righteous people there. Don't destroy it. You'll make a bad name for yourself. And you can see again this unique character of Abraham. He's a man of mercy, great mercy and grace. It's very difficult for him to just think about someone that is righteous that will suffer because of the people around him. And it's also hard for him to think that this righteous person, okay, maybe he can make a change in that town. Maybe he can make them repent. So just be patient with them. This is probably his mindset. And when I read that, I think about Gaza. And are there righteous people in Gaza? Out of all these innocent civilians, and this is like the talk, are there really? It's a big question. It's a big conundrum, and I don't blame the people that have this mindset. We're trying to be decent people. We're trying to be humane. We're trying to be merciful. We're trying to, in a way, walk in the path that God and Abraham gave us. But God also said to Abraham, he will know to make justice when needed. And justice is cruel. Justice is not an easy thing. send a person for prison, to send a person to be killed, even if necessary. It's not an easy thing. This is and I would say that's why we, the Jewish people, we have 3 forefathers, not 1, because we need a person like Abraham, we need a person like Isaac, which was happy to be sacrificed in the binding of Isaac. So our rabbinic tradition says. He knew that the price for life is life itself. So he was willingly, the difficult part for a person like Isaac was not to go on the altar to be sacrificed. The difficult part for Isaac was to get off the altar without being sacrificed. He couldn't understand, if God wants my life, this is what I have to pay, because that's the type of person Isaac is. Then comes Jacob, that knows how to balance his father and grandfather. And this is the role of Israel, to make justice when needed, even if it's cruel, even if it's almost look inhumane. To be charitable and to be merciful and have a lot of grace on one hand, but when justice needs to be done, then we can't just follow Abraham, because we are, of course, children of Abraham, but we also have Isaac, we also have Jacob, and we also have the commandment of God to wipe evil and to do justice when needed. So this is a thought that I want to share with you, and if you are interested in commenting, asking, it's just an open for you. And if you want me to close the recording also, I can do that as well if any of you wants to.
It gives a whole new insight, Itamar, that I wouldn't have thought of.
Welcome, dear. Look, it's the living word of God, so in every moment of the way, when we read it, we have to try and reflect and think about it. What is God teaching us? It's always relevant. It's the living word of God again. Yes, go ahead.
So look at verse 29 of the next chapter, chapter 19.
Yes.
Of course, there was not 10, but there was Lot and his family. And it says that, where is it?
What verse in 19?
Well, now I lost it. Oh, here it is. Verse 29, not 19. Verse 29 of what chapter is that? Verse 9 of chapter 19. So Genesis 19:29.
Go ahead.
It says, so when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew. So to me, that Abraham's prayer was for the righteous to come out. And of course, only Lot and his family were in that category. But it was still because of that prayer and that negotiation that God brought Lot out. And so I think we're going to see the majority of these hostages saved. We'll see. But the negotiation should only be with God. It should not be with Hamas. As far as the Israeli government goes. And, the prayer should be, bring the righteous out. Bring the righteous out before the city is destroyed.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I just want to remind you that Samson was a righteous person that died in Gaza with many of the Philistines with him in that temple. Just another thought. It was in the temple of Gaza, of the Philistines. So God forbid, of course, we are looking forward to see our beautiful babies and children that were kidnapped back home, the women, the elderly, and all the others that were kidnapped. But these pure souls, again, they just don't deserve it. Okay.
Thank you, Itamar.
Yeah, welcome. I want to say another thing about it. Yeah, I want to say maybe one more comment about Sodom. What was so wrong with Sodom? So, what did they do so wrong? It's I mean, what did they do? So, in the rabbinic literature, at least, they speak about Sodom as not being hospitable. In a way, they live in their own oasis, fertile land, lots of water. They don't need anyone. Right? They kind of live in their own paradise. And they didn't want the bubble to be shattered. So if a needy person came to them in times of hunger in Judea or in Moab or wherever, they didn't give him bread. They gave him coins. And then the rabbinic tradition says they gave him coins, but he cannot eat the coins. So whenever he tried to buy something, they just didn't give him anything. They just didn't want to sell him. And if you are in Sodom, okay, maybe you'll have the money. They gave you charity, but you can't buy anything. They'll eventually die. And then they just took their coins back. So they pretended to be charitable, okay, and to give money to the needy, but they didn't sell him the bread. And so again, they were just not hospitable people. And the rabbinic tradition continues and says that the people of Sodom said something like, "What's mine is mine, and what yours is also mine." Okay, so they were just not accepting the fact that people from the outside are coming there. They were not interested in it. They were not interested in other people. They could not accept the idea that some people are disadvantaged. They just wanted to keep themselves, stay in their own bubble, and that's why God punished them. So again, just giving you a little bit of insight from the Jewish tradition. I have it near me. Yeah, that's what I want to share. By the way, it's the exact opposite of Bethlehem, the house of bread that was always busy with hosting other people, and so this is a big contrast that is going on between Sodom and Bethlehem. Okay, how was Lot welcomed there? He was wealthy, and he didn't need their help, so he was welcomed, and it's not a good thing that Lot was welcomed there, in a way. It doesn't say good thing about him. So maybe he was righteous compared to the others, but because he invited, for example, these angels, okay, he still had that quality as the nephew of Abraham, he still had that quality of hospitality. But the fact that he was hospitable to the angels that came to Sodom, you already see the death threats. They're gathering around his house and they're about to kill him. They want to do bad things to the people. So you can actually see it in the text that Lot is a bit different, but he was wealthy. When he parted from Abraham, he was already so heavy with flock and wealth and servants and all that Abraham said, wherever you want to go, you go. You'll go one way, I'll go to the other. You'll go right, I'll go left, etc. And then he chose to be in Sodom. Geographically speaking, it's the lowest place on earth. I mean, not Sodom, the Dead Sea, but this region is very, very low. And in the Bible, there is this concept that low place geographically are also low morally. So again, the fact that Lot chose to be in that low place and Abraham chose to be in that high mountain of Hebron it tells a lot about their characters. Okay, Joyce says, writing, Israel media reports that Hamas has released 2 Israeli hostages, 85 years old, Yocheved Lifshitz, 79 years old, Norit Cooper, both from near Oz. So again, this is a great blessing. But I'll just say that it's a part of a. Again, I'm blessing God for giving His grace and saving these two elderly people, and I hope there will be more. But the entire campaign is going to be prolonged because of that. Because if we're waiting another day and then they release one person, two people, it's good. They have more than 200 people. See, so it could make the whole thing last for months. So just another thought about this hostage situation, and it's not like I'm not blessing for it, of course, but I'm just saying that as a country, as an economy, okay, how long can you have this state of affairs that more than 300,000 are in reserve, and what are we supposed to do? Keep them in reserve for the next year? Like, how's that going to work? It could collapse our economy even more than the situation today. So again, it's a tactic to just prolong it and exhaust the Israeli government, the Israeli public, and Hamas couldn't care less for their own people suffering near in the southern part of Gaza, in Rafah and Khan Yunis. They couldn't care less. Okay, they will suffer. They will have bread and water, and that's it. Like, they don't care about that. What they care is to exhaust Israel, to demoralize it, and then in the right moment when reservists are being released back home, they can launch another attack. So this is, again, just of course we have the faces of the victims and the people that were kidnapped, and we see them and our hearts go to them. This is exactly what the terrorists want. They want us to, they know that's who we are, because we have that quality of Abraham, being merciful, especially for those who deserve our mercy, and they take advantage of it. And again, this is a time to do justice, not just to be merciful, although these are our people there, and it's not easy. But in the long run, there are other victims that we don't know their faces, we don't know their names, and they will be victimized by these terror groups. So this is another thing that I want to share with you. Again, it's hard to deal with terror, and don't play to their hands. That's the point. Okay, this is it. If there are any other questions, bye Paul, if you have to go. If any of you wants to say anything, comment anything, then you're most welcome. Chris, thank you. Thank you for being here. And I'm very happy that you're joining. This is very important for me to do, and I'm happy that you're interested in it. And it's important for me to do the prayer, to do the study, to give you the updates that you won't see on the news usually. And that's it. That's how I deal with this situation too. Okay, all the best for now, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Hey Joyce.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, dear. I hope I gave you another perspective on this hostage situation.
No, I said the best thing would be if they're trying to find out where they are and they can be rescued. I mean, you're right. To have it bleed out inch by inch isn't.
It's going to crush our economy completely. It's like it's not doable, really. Like, we can't live in an illusion. That's my point. If people think that we could just wait it for another year, how? Like, you have hundreds of thousands of people that are away from their families, away from work, and the whole economy is in halt. So it's not possible, really. Okay. So thanks again.
You have a good night.
You too, and all the best. I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye for now.